So I started that about 2.5 years ago, and just felt that God was leading me to be transparent about the difficult past that I had. And, maybe not too typical of a past because I was raised in a Christian environment, went to a very good Christian school. And so you wouldn't expect somebody who had been raised that way to go out into the world and choose abortion. But that is what I did. And when I came back from my first year of college, I met someone and, just made some wrong decisions, made some mistakes that I knew I shouldn't have, but I was kind of wanting to put God to the side for a bit and just live my own life and do my own thing. And so I got involved in a relationship and found myself pregnant and didn't know what to do and was really filled with fear that my Christian community would never embrace me again. And that just really was the main thing that I kept thinking about. I'll just never be accepted by them again. And, as an adult woman now, I know that that was a lie. That was fear. That was controlling my thinking. And it was such a powerful fear that I walked into Planned Parenthood. I didn't actually go that day intending to have an abortion. I thought in my naive mind that I would just go and discuss it. The person I was with, said, come on, let's go. Let's talk about this and we'll find out what they say. And being raised in a Christian school, of course, I knew it was wrong. Morally, I knew it was wrong, that God didn't want that. But the fine details of understanding exactly what abortion is, I didn't really know very much. So I went in and talked to a woman, and they did an ultrasound, which I was not allowed to see. And so I didn't really know exactly how far along I was, or I didn't get to see or hear a heartbeat or anything like that. And then I was taken to another room where they told me I would be seen by a doctor. So I thought, okay, well, I'll get a chance to ask questions. And I don't know, what I'm going to do yet. But I was really nervous and shaking, and she gave me a medication which she said would calm me down and help me, relax. And then I woke up. Mm-hmm. And I was in the recovery room. Wow. And I was in a lot of pain. And so I knew that the thing that I wanted to talk about was done. And it was really kind of an eerie feeling. There was other girls in the room because you wake up sitting up in a chair and you're kind of slumped over, but you're wondering, how did you get in this room, in this chair? How did all this happen? And there was other girls kind of also waking up, and some of them are getting sick, and it was really a dark moment. And I can remember them saying to me that, we'll get this taken care of and then everything will be fine. But it certainly wasn't fine. Nothing was fine after that. And so I waited for them to tell me I could leave, and went out to the waiting room, and, he was looking at me a little bit, with sad eyes, and I didn't really want to talk, and we drove home, and I just decided I would never think about it again. I would never think about it again, this horrible thing that I had done. I would never tell anyone, and I would bury it. And I just wouldn't allow it to be part of my future. But that's not the way abortion works. So it really becomes part of you, how you think about things, how you perceive yourself. Mm-hmm. And then, so that relationship fell apart, which, the percentages are pretty high that people that have abortions together as couples do end up breaking up. And that happened. And then I got involved in another relationship. This one was, very abusive. And it became very abusive very quickly. And I was not raised with abuse, so it's odd that I would allow that like I did, but I did. And he was a very difficult young man to be involved with. He was involved with drugs and alcohol, and I was not raised that way either, so I was not quite sure how to handle him. But instead of leaving, I stayed and found myself pregnant again. And this time it wasn't like, maybe we should go talk to somebody at Planned Parenthood. It was more like, get in the car. You're having an abortion. And I didn't really want to go against him because I knew what that might mean for me. And he did, beat me up a couple times to try to see if he could force me into having a miscarriage. And so I just thought, you know what, I can't do this. I can't. And instead of using that as an opportunity to leave and get away and seek help, I felt I didn't deserve better than that. And I didn't deserve to be in a different situation. And who was going to want to help me after what I already did once? And now I had chosen to be with this horrible guy. So who was going to want to help me? And I felt very alone and lost. So off I went to Planned Parenthood again, and had an abortion. And then that following day, I became very ill and had a lot of pain and began to hemorrhage. And I asked him to take me to the hospital, which he did, and dropped me off. And I went in and passed out and was unconscious. And they rushed me in for emergency surgery to save my life. And he drove off and went to the bar, so he never even knew what happened to me. But, I can remember, and I say this in the book, being taken down the hallway to the surgical, room, thinking, my mom is going to get a phone call that says, your daughter has died from an abortion. And I prayed in that moment, Lord, I know I'm a horrible person. I am, truly. Please don't let me die. And, that was how low things had gotten for me. And so God did rescue me. He got me through that. He didn't allow me to die. And a few months later, I found myself pregnant again. And this time I didn't tell him. I just went. And they don't care at Planned Parenthood that you have come 3 times or that you're covered in bruises or anything else. They were, how can you pay? Cash or check or charge, and, come on in, let's go. Let's have another one. So they weren't, in all 3 times I never saw a doctor. I never saw a doctor. I never saw an ultrasound. I never heard a heartbeat. And so now I've had 3 abortions, and I consider even myself to be the lowest form of human being. And suicidal. The only reason why I didn't do that was because I didn't want to face God. I still believed in God, and I respected God. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to have to face him, and I didn't want to hurt my parents. So it was a very hopeless time. I didn't know what my future looked like, but it looked dark at that time. And then a young woman who I went to Christian school with, her and I kind of reconnected, and we're just chatting a little bit, and how was your life, and how was your life? And she was had just married a seminary student who was going to become a pastor, just the polar opposite of everything I was in my life. And she started looking in on me and realized I was in trouble. And she really went out of the way to help me, and came to my apartment with my now husband, Brad, and her husband, and they, packed up my apartment and said, no more. You're not going to live like this anymore. You're not going to get beat up anymore. That's enough. And they helped me move out. And, a lot of things happened in that process, but it was a complete turnaround of the way I had been living. And it was a long road to recovery and, healing, kind of just barely getting started at that point. And of course, I asked the Lord to forgive me, and he did. And went back to church. That was really hard. But 2 years later, I got married, and we had a family right away, which is such a miracle with the damage that was done to my body that I could even have kids, is a miracle. And so I had, 3 kids really close together, and you're busy with your life raising your kids. And that was wonderful. And then I really started to feel that God was calling me to do something to help women, but was not thinking about abortion at all because I had only told my husband. So wasn't like that was a topic that I was even considering getting involved with, anything to do with that. And a girl from my church said, hey, the pregnancy center is hiring. And I was like, well, that's nice. What does that have to do with me? And I almost felt like, why would she even ask me that? Can she see it on my face? So I thought, okay, help women and babies. That sounds cool. I can do that. Not really realizing all that abortion, the clinics that are against abortion do. So I got hired for the job, and I was very excited. And then a woman came in one day and was actually talking about, I'm not going to have this baby. And I was like, wait a minute. I can't have you not have your baby. Like, hold on. And, I listened to her for a little while, and then I said, listen, there's something I want to tell you. And I told her my story and how traumatic abortion truly is. Mm-hmm. And she did not want to do that. And she did not want to take the life of her own child. And it would be not something that would be easy to live with. And I gave her every bit of truth. I knew at that point when I just barely started the job, and she didn't have an abortion. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. All right, God, what are you trying to do here? Like, is this what you want for me? Do you want me to tell people my story so that they know that I truly understand where they're coming from? First of all, I really, really get their fear, but to push them away from the option of abortion. And so it became like this path of I've got to start telling some people. I mean, the board didn't even know where I worked. Mm-hmm. My children didn't know. My parents didn't know. And I kind of felt like God was going to make me tell. And I wanted to submit to whatever he wanted me to do. I just wanted, I wanted to do what he wanted me to do. And I would say that. I would pray in the morning before work, okay, Lord, I have no idea what I'm doing here, but please just, whatever it is, I'll do it. And, the telling phase began, telling my board, and they were wonderful and amazing, and telling my kids, really, really hard. Really hard. My boys were so supportive and amazing. My daughter, that was really hard. Yeah, just she cried, and she just said, Mom, it's just weird to think that there were others. Mm-hmm. There were others that should have been here with you, and just a lot for her mind to wrap around at that moment. But she was very loving towards me and really great. Then my parents, oh gosh, that was like being 12 years old all over again, going home to sit down and talk with them and explain what had happened and what I was planning to do, and possibly, in the future, sharing it with women's groups and other organizations if it was going to help other people. And my dad was very worried about that. Mm-hmm. He was very worried about that. And I just assured him, I was like, well, Dad, it's going to be okay, because I'm only going to do it when I know that this is what God wants. If he sends me somewhere to tell my story, I'll go and I'll do what he wants. So it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. So that's kind of, what's been happening. And then I decided, I'm going to write this book. I'm going to put it out there because there's 64 million of us out there, women that have suffered with the trauma of abortion. I want them to be able to get this book. It's an easy read. It's a quick read.
I think I read it in a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's my publisher, who was really a great guy. He said, that's what you want to do. You really want it to be something where people will finish it. You know how many times people, I read this great book. You really want to read it. And I have like stacks of books in my office, like literally stacks of books that I'll probably never get to, even though they're great books. So I just wanted it to be super quick and easy to read to women that have had an abortion so they know they're not alone, to young people that are kind of like, is it really that big of a deal? Yes, it's a really big deal. And just to the church. The church needs to really understand what's going on out there and stop sitting there and doing nothing about it and really step out and stand for life. So, it's out there and it's available to people, and it's been great because I'm hearing a lot of feedback about people that have read it and they're giving it to someone they know who needs it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I really love hearing. Oh, my girlfriend told me she had an abortion and she still cries about it 20 years later. I gave it to her. And I'm just, that really makes me happy.